I've never played more frustrating game in my life. On the surface, it looks neat. A couple of years ago, I stumbled upon the profile of one of the two artists responsible for the 3D assets, Dimitar Karanikov. The other person is Nedialko Nedialkov. Just look at their creation. It looks amazing. This is the hub area and it's where the game looks at its best. Another appealing thing is the genre and the setting. Restricted Area is an action RPG with cyberpunk setting. It's something you've probably seen before. Pollution, megacities, evil corporations, augmentations, legs, arms, eyes, brain, heart, etc. Typical stuff, maybe even a bit unoriginal, but it might make for a good time. This was my thought process. Oh, how wrong I was. I even got a physical copy of the game. The only thing I can say now is that the disc can make a nice coaster for my mug. As this is an older title, I was expecting some tinkering. I also opted out using my copy because the game has Star Force 3 DRM, which is not good for your PC to say the least. So my next best option is myabandonware.com. The good folks at the website have a version of the game that is easy to install. Star Force is removed and no patches applied. After all is said and done, I started the game and I noticed that the cutscenes don't play. Now, the options for the game are in a different executable. From what I've read online, none of the options change anything, but they might break the game. If you try to turn on the cutscenes with clicking yes to display movies, the game crashes asking for VP3 codec. I did try it and the results are unsurprising. The game uses VP3 codec to play the cutscenes, but it's broken on modern systems. It's there to try if you want. I exited the game and give it a shot, but to no avail. I tried other solutions, but nothing helped. Then I started digging through the game files and I found I can watch all cutscenes and even convert them with VLC player to a regular video format. My initial plan was to walk you through the game and where necessary, play the appropriate cutscene. And because there are 4 characters to choose from with different abilities, I wanted to do 4 playthroughs experiencing all the game has to offer. However, those plans went down the drain. I didn't even finish the first run of the game. When you click on new game, you are first prompted to choose your difficulty. I like to be challenged but not overwhelmed, so I went with hard, the middle of the 3 available. After that, it's time to choose who you will play with. There are 4 characters available. If you need some backstory on them, you have to look it up in the manual. This applies to the world building. Attached to all of them is a difficulty on top of the one you choose. What exactly does it mean? I have no idea. One of the many questions I have that will remain a mystery. According to the manual and an interview from the director of the project given to GameSpot prior to releasing the game, the choice of the character dictates how you're going to experience the story. It sounds like different points of view, which is cool. Plus, some missions are locked behind certain characters and their abilities. The devs clearly aim for replayability and this is a nice motivation to try all characters. When I check the cutscenes, a lot are almost exactly the same, just with some character change. These are probably the points of the story that are persistent. I couldn't tell if I'm right since I didn't go with my initial plan. Anyway, I chose Kenji, the shirtless ex-Yakuza member, because of the difficulty attached to him and he is using a katana. In hindsight, this is probably the most boring choice I could have made. Johnson is a weapon specialist that only he can wield certain powerful ones like flame or plasma thrower. Jessica is a hacker that can access cyberspace missions and can deploy a bot to help her in fights. Victoria uses her psi powers to deal with the enemies. Kenji just play whack-a-mole. Once you start the game, you are dropped in the hub area. You can chat with a few NPCs here and explore what it has to offer. There are 3 vendors: the dog that installs new cyber and bioware, Dee the arms dealer, and Shakir the loan shark. I have 13 hours in the game and I never needed a loan. The trick is, when you take a mission, Jason the pilot flies you to your destination. Right next to him in the hub and in the mission, there is always a chest that you can store anything you don't need. After finishing a level, just sell it. However, there is a catch. It's very tedious. There is no fast travel, so if you are in a dungeon, you have to wake all the way up a couple of floors to reach the chest. By the end of the game, this becomes extremely cumbersome because there are too many floors to backtrack. However, it's essential because it's the easiest way to afford upgrades and enhancements. There is a homeless man you can give money to. I don't have any idea what's the point of doing it, but I do it anyway. Also, a diligent woman stands on the street and if you talk to her, she asks for 100 credits to have some fun. But throughout my 13 hours, there was never an option to use her services, so why is she there? Another question that probably will never receive an answer. I find the options given to decline her offer funny. You either state not interested or you don't have money for this, despite having thousands of credits. There is a funny interaction with the dog too. He can repair all your cyber and bioware. You can refuse stating it's too expensive, but you have 10 or even 100 times the amount in you. The game reads how much you have and always updates the sum. After you explore the hub area, you'll see a man dressed in black named Jones. He's the person that will give you your main quests. His employer asks him to gather a team of freelancers to deal with a threat, but you need to prove yourself doing a couple of missions for him. You take the job and go to Jason the pilot, and he'll take you to your destination for 25% of your earnings. It opens a map of the wasteland, but is there just to load the quest. You are dropped in a desert wasteland and mutants are swarming you. Jones even helps if they are close to him. I was thinking this is a nice place to start the game, but I wasn't prepared for the monotonous level design. You always start at the same looking desert, reach the entrance to the dungeon and explore a couple of levels inside. The only difference is the layout. This very quickly got very boring. One of the things that was quickly getting on my nerves was the controls. You need to lower your mouse DPI between 250 and 500 because there is a mouse lag. I lowered it to 500 and still had problems. You can see the pointer at the edge of the screen and I'm trying to slide the mouse, but it's like it doesn't register my movements. After a dozen of tries, it started working properly. This persisted throughout the whole game. The best way to describe it is lack of friction between the mouse and the surface. Maybe if I lower the DPI even more, it will play better, but I never tried it. Since this is an old game, you can probably check a lot of the problems and it will be fair, but at the end of the day, I played it in 2024 and I can say how was the experience at this moment in time. Another annoyance was the lack of proper hotkey bar. You can use only your left, right and middle mouse buttons. You can assign anything you want only to the middle and right mouse buttons, but this means only one skill will be active per button. I'll use the left mouse button to attack and move, right for the ability and middle for the combat enhancement syringes. They make you invisible for a short period of time. You can't assign anything else to the left mouse button but attack, move or attack and move. I honestly don't see why anyone would choose anything else but attack and move. You lose the little number of buttons you have. There is a whole keyboard, why not use it? Your special moves, abilities, etc. can be assigned to the other two buttons. For example, you click on the icon for the right mouse button, hover over the skill and press a number on the keyboard. So if you want to swap anything, you need to press the number and then the right mouse button to activate it. Why not just use the keyboard to activate them? You can even assign the medkits to your buttons, which have dedicated button. Why? It will be much more intuitive if your skills are displayed at the bottom of the screen with all hotkeys visible. This is so bizarre. The skills you acquire during the game are decent in number, but not too many. I don't see why the devs decided to do it this way, and if you are wondering, you can't stack them. On top of that, the pathfinding is abysmal. The character walks in a straight line and it doesn't walk around any object. You have to babysit him. The way I was avoiding this was, instead of clicking somewhere on the screen, I just held the left mouse button and dragged the mouse. Even this was breaking sometimes. Kenji doesn't react at all to sharp turns. What I find funny is the character walks diagonally faster than in a straight line. I'm guessing it's a quirk of the engine, it's custom made. How is the gameplay, you may ask? Well, if you ever played any action RPG, you know what to expect, except clunkier. You go around the level hack and slash, you gather the loot from chests and enemies. It can be a new arm, leg, brain, eyes, weapons, health packs and couple more things. All have different stats that affect your build. There isn't an easy way to compare the loot. You have to check each individual part, but there is an equip the best gear button. It might be wise to use it because you carry a lot of legs and arms. One cool feature in the inventory management is you can rotate everything. You play Tetris. Finally, I reached the first dungeon. To be honest, the initial hour of the game was a bit difficult. I died easily here. There are these big brutes that do tons of damage, and if you get surrounded, you are as good as dead. I ended up using a shotgun to deal damage from distance, and when someone gets close, I switch to the katana. Oh, the only way to swap weapons is to enter the inventory and do it manually. It feels designed to never switch to any other weapon. Fortunately, one of the first skills I got was the jump kick. This was my get out of death free card. When you press the button, Kenji flies a great distance and dealing damage in the meantime. What I found annoying with this skill is that if you click on an enemy, it doesn't do the whole flying thing. Sometimes. It just stops right next to him and maybe does damage. Sometimes. Sometimes it uses the whole bar of energy, others a small portion. No idea why. It took me a while and a couple of deaths to figure it out. What you need to do is click as far as possible from the enemy, sometimes, and then he'll do the whole arc. With the mouse problems, it's not fun. Most of the time it works though. Another weird thing with the kick is that sometimes it mows down a dozen of enemies, but other barely does any damage. I have no idea what is going on. It feels so random. The quest is to clean the place from mutants. I kept going down, equipping new gear, and slaughtering many enemies. The music is repetitive, generic as possible, and it doesn't fit the mood. I killed everyone, but I started roaming around for a bit. I didn't even realize the quest was done. I just happened to check my quest log, and from there I was a click away to get back to the hub. The problem is that every other quest shows mission successful in big bright red letters in the middle of the screen. I think you see the problem. I was wasting time roaming around looking for enemies that don't exist. Speaking of wasting time, don't even bother breaking the boxes. They don't have anything inside. Here is another weird problem. The map always shows where you have to go to progress in red, signaling a door, stairs or your objective. As you can see, there is nothing here. Usually it shows those places in the level with yellow brackets. So I was humping the wall thinking there is another floor to go down. This prompted me to open my quest log. Right from the beginning of the game, all those wall problems started to pile up and it's not going to get any better. Once you kill everyone, you travel back immediately to the hub. There is a stat screen, all your kills, credits, experience gain, etc. if you care about it. The most peculiar stat is the reputation. You gain it when you finish quest, but if you decide to quit, you return to the hub losing some. What it does? No idea. I visited D to sell the loot and found a nice new katana. Same model, different stats. And also I visited the dock to repair my cyber bioware. One cool thing about the vendors is they can enhance everything. For example, the dock can optimize your limbs. To be able to put new cyber bioware, you need to have certain tolerance, which is improved by strength. And D can adjust the grip, in this case of the katana, giving you bonuses to damage or other goodies. Now, sometimes it shows unavailable and you can't do anything to your limbs or weapon. I have no idea why. You just have to check every time when you visit them. Here's where selling the loot comes into play. After each purchase, the next one is more expensive, but enhancing and improving gives you better stats than what you can buy. At least this was my experience. I made the katana so good that no other weapon came close to it. So at the end I barely checked for any new weapons. All this is never explained what each exactly do, not even in the manual. You are on your own to discover it. The only thing explained is that you can do it. After I was done with the merchants, I went to Jones, the man in black, to continue the story. His boss is happy with my performance and I'll be accepted in the team if I agree to be on standby in case they need me. I happily oblige and my next task is to kill a mutant leader that has taken over a factory. Then I fly to the dropping zone and guess what? It's still the same wasteland but with a different layout. Even the entrance to the dungeon is the same as the first level. I'm not going to lie, up until this point, despite the nagging issues, I was having some fun. I wasn't fully invested, but I see what the developers were trying to do. I got some new skills, the difficulty was just about right, with few little spikes here and there. I was getting constant flow of new gear and I was excited to see new places. At this point I was 2 hours in and I didn't know what will happen and what I'll experience. But this is the point where everything went downhill. Think of it like jumping from an airplane and your parachute doesn't want to open. That fast, that bad. I kill all the enemies in the desert, I do that to every place to get as much XP as possible and enter the facility. I died here because I was surrounded and got my life drained extremely fast. So I loaded my save file, kite them and used a shotgun. This is where the Jump King shines and mows down a bunch of enemies. At this stage of the game I play a bit safely and that's why I'm using the shotgun. I even gain a level, so let's have a look at the stat screen. The main attributes are strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, reaction and willpower. When you hover with the mouse on one of them, it will show what it does. This is a nice little touch. However, there is a discrepancy between what the game shows and the manual. Honestly, the manual gives slightly better explanation. In this case, constitution is your physical fitness. This could mean anything. However, the manual says it increases life energy. It's your hit points. Or how about willpower? In game it's explained as defines your physical stability. In the manual reduces the effects of injury. It increases your resistances. The only sure way to know what will increase is through experimenting and this is not a good idea. You may want to focus on a specific build, but this way you waste your points and time. All the attributes raises what the manual calls secondary values. Evade, hit points, tolerance and energy. So which attribute raises what is a guessing game. I think this was the moment when I started to notice something weird when you level up an attribute. Look at strength. I decided to invest 1 point. Strength increases tolerance, which helps you wear better gear, but why when I put 1 point it raises tolerance with 5? I've seen it with 10 or 1, but why? The only thing I can think of is it has something to do with the gear I wear. As per every action RPG, gear increases certain stats artificially, if I can say it that way, and maybe there is something there. I don't know. How you want me to focus on certain stats while you are not telling me how the system works and you don't have proper explanation for many things in game. Even for the skills I have questions, like what does this delay mean? I can cast kick every 5 seconds or what? It's a mess. Since we are on the stats screen, I just want to mention something quickly. All the loot belongs to one of many corporations. Wearing more than one item from the same company gives you hefty bonuses, essentially sets like in any other action RPG. It's highly incentivized to do it, but I never use this much. There are so many companies that it's hard to hold on to any of the loot just so you can make a set. If I stumble upon a better right leg, I'm equipping it. Let's move on from one mess to another. My inventory got full, so I backtracked to the pilot to empty it. Once I get back to the dungeon, I continue to look down for the boss of the area and kill everything that moves. I reach a giant creeper, which is the mutant I was looking for, and got to work. I finish him with a flying kick. Once I get back to the hub, I notice a new NPC. He gives you all the side quests. They are all randomly generated and have difficulty attached to them, easy, medium and hard. While watching the footage, I noticed reputation 4 on top of the jobs list. Against the reputation unlock higher rewards for the side quests. Nobody knows. I didn't get one immediately. I went to sell and repair everything and then I went back to the guy. This time he has better value offers and I took the highest paid one. The job is to kill my target, that's all I need to know. Jason gets me to where I need to go and it's the same wasteland with the same dungeon. One thing I'll say about the side quests. They are a good way for leveling up and making money, but you have to endure the monotonous gameplay that will settle in by now. Kill some mutants, gather the loot, bring it back to the pilot, rinse and repeat. I managed to die again here because I was surrounded again. You can't weasel out and I didn't have enough energy to use the kick. Every time you die, you are sent to the hub and you can go back to the quest, but it starts all over again, so the best strategy is to save manually often. I don't think the game has checkpoints. At this dungeon I start to use my most vicious tactic, gathering enemies around explosive barrels and hitting one to cause a chain reaction. I do get hurt, but I can endure the hit. By this time I had life regeneration skill unlocked. However, the enemies get obliterated. The explosion area of effect is massive and it feels good. After a trip to the pilot, I continue my exploration, and then this happened. The yellow glow is a skill that reflects close combat damage back to the enemy. I see those two guys and I activate it. Then I couldn't do anything. The left, right and middle mouse button activate the skill and I couldn't move. So all I can do was sit, activate the skill, use a health pack and wait to be killed. For some reason the game changed my buttons. Escape now makes screenshots. I did the next best thing, load up my save file and start the side quest again. 16 minutes into the dungeon and it happened again. I was so frustrated at this moment that I pressed quick save. The issue is that you have only one save file and you overwrite it every time. For some reason, a couple of loads later, the game started working again. This was not an isolated case. It did happen again, albeit less frequently. That's why saving often is important. I actually considered giving up on the game when this occurred later. On top of that, the game crashed a couple of minutes after this. Great. At the end, I find the target and eliminate him. I managed to get a lot of food out of this mission, so much so that I could afford many enhancements and adjustments and still have a ton to buy whatever gear I needed. When I entered the shop, I had only 8,000 credits. When I include the upgrades for my katana, I ended up making close to 70,000 credits, breaking the economy. While going through the footage, I noticed that I adjusted the grip, but nothing has changed, so I can't even tell why I spent 27,000 credits on that. Once I'm done getting rich, I went to Jones for my next mission. The corporation you work for found out that one of their competitors, Oxygenetics, didn't experience any mutant attacks. Suspicious. This shocked Kenji because they are dangerous? Not that I know who they are, maybe it's in the manual. Eventually he calms down and gets the task. Free an informant named Jessica, the same one you can choose to play. I went to the pilot and started the job, but I realized I forgot to buy medkits and combat medicine, so I aborted the mission and found out my reputation went -1. Anyways, I got everything and it's time to save Jessica. We landed at the helipad at the Oxygenetics prison. Up until now, the game throws at you mostly mutants. Not truly diverse selection, but it's fine. Most of them prefer close encounters with you, but there are few that shoot some type of projectile weapon. They don't hit hard, they only chip your health bar. From this level onward, there are way more enemies that shoot. Others attack you with swords. To be honest, they feel like reskin of the mutants. The biggest difference is that they look like knights with shields. Visually, the level looks fine, but it doesn't offer anything interesting or memorable. Well, I lied. There is one thing. I continue to explore the prison looking for Jessica, and I have to face the next boss, or bosses to be precise. One has a sword, the other has a gun. The design is certainly interesting. It feels like the devs scaled the model of the regular enemies and slapped 2 more legs on them. they are not an issue. At this stage, the game becomes from moderately difficult to downright easy. One of the reasons is that you can easily stagger a single enemy and he can't fight back. The other is probably that I broke the economy. However, I think it's mostly a balancing issue. What goes down eventually will go up. You'll see what I mean later in the video. Both of them went down in 38 seconds. Exceedingly difficult fight. Then I saw Jessica, I clicked on her and the game crashed. Second try, I killed the bosses, saved the game, click on Jessica, the game crashed. Third try, load the save, click on Jessica, the game crashed. Now what? I started digging through the internet to find a solution. Then I did a couple of fresh installs of the game. I just kept the save file, it didn't work. I tried compatibility mode, crash, so I moved to trying with DigiVoodoo. Still the same result. Then I tried running the game using DD-Raw Compat, Wines 3D and DXWind. Nothing. I went to a Russian website, downloaded the 1.14 version of the game, I was playing 1.13. The same crash. I got desperate, so I decided on virtual machine. I went high and low to look for Windows XP. The VM is running, but the game didn't even wanna start. I had it with this game. I'm done. I said I never finish it. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing, liking or disliking the video, and maybe even comment to help with the almighty algorithm. See you in the next video. There is a big-breasted woman on the screen. Now that I got the attention of the people who just listened to the video, I can move on. Those who noticed the runtime of the video figure out I wasn't done. Yet. I spent probably a whole day troubleshooting and I gave up in the evening. But on the next day I decided on one last try. What if I install unpatched version of the game and dump the same file to try and pass the crash? It's too stupid to work, right? Right? It did work. When I loaded up my save file, the window was very small and in the upper left corner. Everything was leaving ghosting effect, but when I clicked on Jessica, it presented me with a choice. Should I go to the roof to escape or take the sewer? This is what the game couldn't load. I make a save and put it back in the version I played initially. Throughout the game, you make a couple of choices like this, but I'm not sure if they have major consequences. I chose the sewer. I don't think it matters. You don't even go through the sewer. I just can't believe this worked. Let's move on. My next step is to get out Jessica alive, an escort mission. Generally, I'm not against them, but this one is awful. Jessica's AI is non-existent. She follows you, but likes to be between the hammer and the nail. You can't give her commands, you can't heal her, no self-preservation skills. This is why I developed the most peculiar strategy. Shove myself in front of the enemies so they can focus on me. This was all fine and peachy until my key stopped working again. What I think is happening is I press the buttons too fast and the game gets very confused. Let's load up the save file and start the escort mission again, where Jessica almost died at the end. I wanted to keep her alive despite the fact she was more of a hindrance. I sold everything and Jones congratulated me on the success, and when he's ready he's gonna brief me. This is just padding. It's intentional to make you do some side missions and it's probably connected to the day and night cycle that the game has. So, side quest it is. I get one that literally says it's not the right one for me. I have no idea what this means. Maybe because it's easy. The job is to take an employee of another company because he can be useful. It was the job with the highest pay and I had nothing else to do, so I went and started grinding. At this point of the game I wasn't even paying much attention to anything. The boredom is high. I wanted just to finish once the game. I reached a floor that I thought wasn't the last one because I saw on the map there is red, which indicates a door or stairs to the next floor. However, I went outside of the room, nothing. Then inside, nothing. The map indicates clearly there is something here, but in practice I had to quit the quest. The game is broken, I couldn't finish the job. I was flabbergasted, but what else can I do? Back in the hub I talked to Victoria, another one of the characters you can play. I'll let you listen to the amazing voice acting.
Hi, my name is Victoria. And who are you?
Kenji.
Funny, I always thought cyborgs only had serial numbers and not real names.
Cyborgs? I'm no cyborg. What gave you the idea that I might be one?
Of course you are a cyborg. I sense these things. You have no aura.
Nonsense. My name is Kenji Takeshi, son of Genyu Takeshi. I have a father, so I can't be a cyborg.
You really think you are human? I have never met a machine that perceived itself to be human. Have you got feelings?
Oh yes, anger at the moment. I am human.
No reason to shout. When you don't believe me, then go see the doc. Man, I hate machines.
This revelation comes out of nowhere. Even after watching every single cutscene, there is nothing to hint that Kenji is a cyborg. I guess the dev thought since this is a cyberpunk setting, there must be someone who doesn't know he is not a human. This is not a good way to deliver it. For some reason, after this meeting with Victoria, Jason the pilot started calling me Victoria.
Hi Victoria, where to today? Hello Victoria. Hello Victoria. Hello Victoria. Hi Victoria, where to today?
What? I went to see the dog, but he is not there. Sometimes the nurse will replace him, but effectively does the same job. I think this is based again on the day and night cycle of the game, despite the fact that it's off. I have no other explanation. With the dog missing, I went to do another side mission, and of course something had to break. If you guess the buttons, you'll be right. If you guess twice, you win a cookie. Loading the save file didn't help, but restarting the game fixed it. This is the first time I had some difficulties, despite the fact the mission was easy. There were some enemies that could one-shot me, a single swipe and I'm dead. The usual tactic of rushing head first didn't work. I had to draw out the enemies one by one. I'm basically doing all these side quests to pass time. I don't need the money and most of the main missions are not difficult. I finally finished the mission, and as soon as I got back to the hub, I noticed on the map a red dot indicating important NPC, but there was no one. I walked around the whole hub just to see if I missed something, but there was nothing, so I went to the doc to tell me if I'm a cyborg or not. But the nurse is there and I can't continue the storyline, so I save and load with the hopes time will pass somehow. The nurse is still there. I restarted the game and even the nurse was gone this time. What am I supposed to do? I thought on giving up again, but again I didn't, so I did the next best thing, take a side mission. This time I chose hard difficulty and I got kicked really hard. It was so difficult that I had to abandon it. The enemies drained me out of my health and medkits. My reputation suffered, but at least the doc is back. Up until the meeting with Victoria, there was no story at all, if you can call that this jumbled mess. Enjoy some more voice acting.
You look kind of worn out. Is there a problem? This woman, Victoria, claimed that I am a cyborg. Could you try to convince her otherwise?
You don't know that you're a cyborg.
She's right. Why did you never tell me this?
I thought you knew. That's why I never thought it necessary to tell you. I mean, have you ever told me that I'm human?
But who am I?
Maybe you should ask the technicians about that. This Jessica seems to know about that sort of thing.
Thanks.
Hi, Kenji. What's up?
You offered to help me if there was anything you could do.
Of course. No matter what it is, just say it. You saved my life.
I'm a cyborg.
Really? Cool. Man, that's wicked. I was saved by a machine.
I don't think it's cool. To be honest, I still can't believe it.
Why not? Is it a bad thing to be a cyborg?
Until 2 minutes ago, I thought I was Kenji Takeshi and not just some machine.
Oh, man. That was probably really tough for you.
I want to know who built me and why.
Oh, no, no, no. I know what you want me to do. That's suicide. I'm not going to log into a positronic brain.
What's the problem?
Everyone who's tried that has gone mad. No. No chance.
Whatever. Those were your words. But it seems that what you say is not important.
Do you know what you were asking of me?
I'm asking you to risk your life for the person who saved your life. Then we are even.
Okay, then we're even. But don't ever ask me a favor ever again. Are we clear on that?
Sure, thanks.
Oh man, what am I getting myself into? That's it. I have the data.
And?
The person who built you was a professor, Dr. Dmitry Savinov. He works in an oxygenetic lab. I've also found out the location.
Thanks. I'll set off right now.
Oh, just one more thing.
Yes?
Your program had a few blockers, presumably to be able to control you better. I have taken the liberty of removing them.
Thanks.
And something else.
What now?
One of these blockers was defective, I think. Otherwise you would never have got here. I don't think the person who built you meant for you to do this.
I'm afraid I've already done it.
And something else.
What now?
Take care.
I love how bad the voice actor for Jessica is. What a coincidence that oxygenetics is my birthplace. and I'm off to the oxygenetic lab. The entrance is different. The textures inside are too, but somehow it looks even more drab and repetitive than the other dungeons. It's hard sometimes to tell where the entrance to the next room is. And there are also new enemies, robots. They are reskins, of course. It doesn't take me long to find the scientist that built me. What's funny is that for this part the audio is in German for some reason. To be fair, the voice acting in German is better than the English one. Listen to it.
Ich wusste, dass du irgendwann kommen würdest. Auch wenn du nicht ganz einwandfrei funktionierst. Immerhin hast du deinen Vater getötet. Leider bist du nicht geeignet, den Posten deines Vaters zu übernehmen. Dafür haben wir aber schon ein neues Modell. Ich bin sicher, du brennst darauf, es zu sehen.
Du hast mich getötet und durch diesen Cyborg ersetzt.
Das ist nicht ganz korrekt. Erstens meinst du nicht dich, sondern nur dein Vorbild. Und das liegt lebendig da hinten in der Tiefkühltruhe. Und zweitens werde ich dich jetzt töten. Kenji 2.0. Mach ihn fertig.
It's time to fight myself. For some reason, the scientist died and I load my save file because I didn't want to kill him, at least not yet. As soon as my doppelganger is dead, it abruptly sends me to this screen. I don't know what this means, but I use my phone to translate it. As you probably guessed it, you either set free the real Kenji or kill him. I choose to kill him. As the Highlander movie taught me, there can be only one. How do I know this was the real Kenji? I watched the cutscenes. If you choose to save him, you unalive yourself. I have no idea if you continue to play with the real Kenji. Back to the hub, the doc tells me he ran out of anesthetic, so if I get him some, he'll make me a custom BioWare. It's a deal. Jones gives you a task to destroy by blowing them 3 oxygenetic factories that produce mutants. And off I go to get the anesthetic first. I get them, it's a short dungeon, and guess what? The doc is gone. I can't finish the side quest. I tried many times to quit and load the game, but the doc was to no avail. If this is connected to the day and night cycle, it's the most pointless implementation I've seen. It's just wasting my time. Instead of accepting a side quest, I went straight to the main story mission. It's time to blow up some factories. The first one is easy. Set the charges, go out, and they will be remotely detonated. However, the second one won't be easy. The security is tightened, there are more patrols in the corridors, and you can't remotely detonate the charges. You'll be on a set timer. My plan is to clean the whole dungeon before planting the explosive. As soon as I plant the first charge, the timer starts running backwards from 2 minutes. I escaped with 6 seconds on the clock. After the explosion, the ship is shot down by a rocket and you have to defend Jason until he fixes it. This is a wave defense mission. 7 minutes and 28 seconds agonizing boredom. I was literally sitting in one place without moving and just holding left click. The enemies were kind enough to wait their turn and not go to the pilot. John sets me for my next mission, the last factory. He also touched Jessica. Great. Before I went, I saw the custom made BioWare that Doc gave me. Mine was better. As soon as we landed, my buttons broke again. The factory is a decent step up in difficulty. I even died a couple of times. I had to be more careful not to rush and use my skills to the fullest. Even with that, I had to travel to the hub to get more medpacks. 5-6 hours into the game, they start throwing obscene amount of enemies with few elite variants, and that's how they manage difficulty. Here almost everyone takes too long to kill. I don't think I'm under-leveled because I was plowing through enemies until now. I thought I was over-leveled. I was actually starting to struggle a bit. Anyway, I planted the bomb and escaped through the sewers. The funny thing is that the sewers are much easier, just a leisurely stroll. The inconsistency is very noticeable, and this is the bluntest level of them all. Last mission. It's time to end oxygenetics and discover who is pulling the strings. Jones is giving you your last task. Have a listen to it and tell me if you notice something.
I have good news. We've located Oxygenetic Central Research Center. This is where all the data on the mutant project is stored. We have to destroy this data and the central computer. In order to do this, you'll all have to act together. Jessica and Kenji will take the rear entrance and fight their way through to the central computer. Then Jessica will load a virus onto the computer that will initiate self-destruction in the facility. Mr. Johnson and Victoria will enter through the main entrance to get to the communication center to prevent any data from being sent out of the lab. Good luck.
To whom Jones is talking? I'm Kenji, or at least his cyborg clone. It's like there is a fifth person. The last mission starts as usual in the wasteland, but when I get inside the building, I just started to get destroyed. If I was struggling in the last level, here it was impossible to kill everyone. The medkits are not instant healing. They gradually restore it and the damage I take exceeds it. When I get surrounded, the enemies stagger me, and most of the time if I manage to escape, it's with very little health left. I started to think I have to quit the mission and grind a lot, but at the end I decided to see how much I can push it. I didn't want to spend more time with the game than necessary. Blowing up the barrels still works though. The only thing I was glad at this moment was that Jessica wasn't with me inside. For some reason she didn't enter. I think she bugged out because I exited the facility, she was there and followed me. The difficulty spike made me stop exploring, so I focused on getting as quickly as possible to the next floor. Jump scare. He just set me on fire once and stood like a brick wall there. It turns out this was a trap and not the last level. I had a chat with Johnson and Veronica. Jessica is nowhere to be found. Kenji says Osaki organized the setup, and Jessica is killed. Kenji vows to avenge her. I get to Osaki's headquarters, which looks like a medieval church. Kinda weird for an evil corporation if you ask me. If you think the last level was hard, this is even harder. I died in the very first few minutes inside. Just look at how fast they killed me. My next try had the same result, and I died, and I died, and I died. I decided to do the next best thing, run past the enemies. Despite avoiding conflict, I died 8 times in total until I reached the boss. It turns out Jones betrayed me for money. He was working for Osaki. Now even demons are involved. The brief time I was fighting him, I realized this was going to be an uphill battle. He staggers me a lot and there is nothing I can do. After many deaths, I realized what I have to do. The first and probably the most important is to rely on luck for the behemoth to miss his attacks. That way he won't stagger me. The second is to move around the arena to heal and hope his tentacle will miss me. He have extraordinary long reach. Just look at this. I'm not even in his reach and I still took damage. At the end I gave up and threw myself in and hope I have enough medkits. I started the fight with 35 and finished it with 11. At least his design is different from everything else. Jones sold me for money and he has to pay the price. But it's not over. Osaki is waiting in his office. I was killed in less than a minute. I was low on medkits, so I went to buy more. I was planning to do the same thing as the behemoth. Endure and hope for the best. 4 hits and I'm down. Death after death after death. If I get close, he staggers me and does a lot of damage. If I go further away, he shoots a projectile and can also trap me in a bubble. I couldn't even use my skills because I didn't have enough energy. The energy is restored by beating up enemies. I spent around 40 minutes and I gave up, for real this time. I had enough. The way I see it, I need to quit the mission and start grinding, but I don't want to spend any more time with this game. I could rearrange my skills with the dog, but I doubt it will help much. The buttons broke so many times, junky controls, nonsensical story, game-breaking bugs, repetitive music and level design, monotonous gameplay. I don't wanna do another 3, 4 or 5 hours. On top of that, it's poorly balanced game. Let me demonstrate what I mean. It starts a bit difficult but manageable. Then it goes down after the first 2 hours and stays that way for almost the entirety of the game. All of a sudden, side quests on hard are being difficult to the point I can't even finish them, but the cherry on top is the last few levels, from being moderately easy to difficult and in the end just being brutal. The technical difficulties can be explained by being an old game. However, maybe there is a reason why the game turned out the way it is. Firstly, 2 people made the game. Articles about the game started showing up in April 2003, and at this time, this was probably a difficult task for them. On top of that, in January 2004, 10 months before the initial release in Germany, the developer announced they cut ties with their publisher, 4AM Entertainment, for not paying them. This is something that could significantly impact a game development. Plus, the engine was custom and probably not optimized well. Despite every excuse I can make, this is still a bland game in the best case scenario. At worst, it's utter mess. But the question now is, did they learn their lesson for their next game? I doubt that, judging by the reviews. I have very low expectations. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing, like or dislike the video and leave a comment to help with the almighty algorithm. До нови срещи!
Hi, Victoria. Where to today?